Hey guys, welcome back to Around the Leagues, your favorite podcast, the number one podcast for people who believe the Bills are going to wipe the floor with the Indianapolis Colts this upcoming weekend. What's going on, Luke? What's popping?
Hey, just chilling. I got up earlier today than I wanted to, so that's always fun. Always kicking the day off on the right note. Yeah, and that pretty much nothing. Just sitting around doing nothing all day.
And I know you guys at home are wondering, are you guys both wearing your hockey sweaters today? That's right, rocking the Leafs.
I guess I am.
He rocking the Rangers. Hockey's back next Wednesday night. We'll get a little bit into that later today. We might have a deeper preview next week. But we got a lot of shit to talk about today, so we're going to get right into it. Luke, where do you want to start at today, man?
Yeah, today's been hectic. I'm glad we started this at 1 o'clock instead of noon because we would have missed out on big news. Just briefly, since there's not much going else in that world, the New York Mets just traded Ahmed Rosario and their number one shortstop prospect, and I believe a couple other farm pieces for Francisco Lindor, and they got Carrasco in return as well, which I'm assuming is going to either come out of their bullpen or be their spot starter with Syndergaard still being out.
Yeah.
But trading both of their shortstops. Rosario's only like 23, 24, I believe. Very good player. I could be completely wrong. Do not fact check that, please. But very good. And they gave him up along with their top prospect. So I'm assuming their plan now is just going to be to lock Lindor up long term. Obviously, they've got a dynamic pitching staff. They were able to keep Conforto and Pete Alonso. I think they still got a few other guys across their lineup that can play. Mets are trying to compete with the Padres and the Dodgers, and they're.
Let's say, yeah.
Their pitching staff's going to get them into the playoffs alone, and probably win them games in that. They don't have to score a whole lot. Now you're adding a dynamic hitter who can hit for power and hit for just solid contact. With Lindor, obviously, as a stud defender as well. Mets, they look like they've got to be the favorite in the East at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, the Mets, we've said it before, especially when we talked to DeGrom. DeGrom, he should have won 3 straight, but he's won 2 of the last 3, and he's pitched 0 playoff games to show for it. You've seen Syndergaard pitch 1-0 shutouts in the 1 run. He was the one hitting the homer, We've seen that team just struggle offensively, and I think Lindor is going to bring some much-needed firepower to that lineup. Because like you said, any night of the week, they could go out there, and they might only need 2 or 3 runs to win that game.
Yeah, their pitching staff, which we've talked about this so often, is just, if it's healthy, it's the best in baseball, and it's not even close. Their number 4 would be anybody else's. Arguably, their number 1, definitely their number 2.
Yeah.
You put Carrasco as your 5 or maybe your long relief guy. He's a lot of teams' 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So, their depth at the rotation is just stupid. Obviously, the Braves are going to be probably going to be without. Who was their pitcher that went down? They had a pitcher tear his Achilles, like second start of this. Soroka.
Oh yeah.
So I'm assuming his Achilles isn't. It's gonna be hard to pitch off of a bad Achilles immediately. He's probably not going to play the start of this season. He could even miss more time than just the first half. We'll see. I've never really seen an Achilles with a pitcher before. I have no idea what to expect with his. His push off's going to be.
Didn't Rivera tear his Achilles?
I have no idea.
I thought he tore his Achilles. Maybe it was something else. Maybe it was a hamstring. I'm not sure. But yeah, no. The Mets pitching lineup, we talked about it. It rivals what the Dodgers had a few years ago when they had Ryu in their lineup, and they were pitching Kershaw, Ryu, and then they were finishing off with like Walker Buehler. That pitching lineup was insane, crazy. It rivals what the Astros had a few years ago with Cole, Verlander, and Greinke. The Padres pitching lineup now, which is insane. It definitely competes with that. The Mets, if they had half of the firepower that the Yankees had across town, the Mets might win 110 games in a 162 game season. Yeah. I mean, you have over in the Bronx a philosophy where you just get it to the sixth, and then they'll let the bullpen take it over from there. Well, we've seen how that's worked out the last 3, 4, 5 years, where it can get you to the ALCS, but when it comes time to, we've seen Chapman throw 2 season-ending pitches that ended up for home runs. They went out and got Cole, and then in the one game where you want Cole to throw 7 innings, 8 innings if need be, they pull him after 5 1/3. So hopefully the Mets don't do that. The Mets, they're going to be an exciting team to watch this year.
Yeah, they're going to be one of those, like, if they're on, I'm probably going to watch them because you're going to get a stud on the mound every single night.
Oh, for sure.
And you're now getting one of my favorite players in baseball, Lindor.
Yeah.
He's like, to me, he's very similar to Javi Baez and he just has fun. He's good offensively. He makes flashy plays defensively. He's just a joy to watch.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, for the first time since probably like 2014, the year that the Mets went to the World Series, it was either 2014 or 15. I'm not entirely sure. But the first time since that year, there's a real question on who is the best baseball team in New York. I mean, the Mets they've had a great pitching staff the last 3 or 4 years, but they just didn't have anybody on offense. Now that they got Alonso, they have Lindor. Who do they got out in the outfield?
They've got Conforto in right field.
Yeah. I thought
they've got a
fielder had a little bit.
They had. Hang on, I'll find it because I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but either way, I mean they've added pop to their lineup, so where now if they need to get 5 or 6 runs to win a game, if one of their starters is having an off night, they have the ability to do that. In previous years, if they gave up 4 or 5 runs, it was pretty much just it was a wrap.
Yeah, I mean they've got Jeff McNeil, who's going to hit for contact.
Yeah.
J.D. Davis, Brandon Nimmo. Dominic Smith can play first. He can play it. He probably would be more of just a string guy, but I mean they're
and if I recall correctly, they're still in the DJ LeMahieu sweepstakes.
I believe so. I've seen their name tossed around.
DJ LeMahieu might be the best pure hitter in baseball right now.
I mean, they get put him at second base and play McNeil at left full time. I mean, then that lineup goes from. Yeah, that lineup goes from one of the worst to one of the best in baseball right off the bat.
Oh, for sure. I mean, LeMahieu might be one of he doesn't get enough credit, right? I mean, back when he was in Colorado and just winning batting titles like it was nothing. I mean, he kind of flew under the radar because you have Arenado out there who attracts a lot of attention. You had Trevor Story out there who was hitting just bombs out there in Colorado. He comes to New York and he does literally the exact same thing. And just with the New York media, all of a sudden he's an MVP candidate and probably regarded to as the best player on that team. A team that has Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Gary Sanchez, and it's DJ LeMahieu who might be the best one on it. So. Right. I mean, if the Mets could add LeMahieu to that lineup and have him batting leadoff, bruh.
I mean, you look at it's crazy you have to sit and look at this and think one of the Dodgers, Padres, and Mets won't be making the NLCS.
Bruh.
I mean, that's
wild.
That's one of the best teams in baseball. Like, those are probably the 3 best complete teams in the league right now.
Oh,
and one of them's not even getting into the Final Four.
I was about to say, what AL team are you taking right now to beat any of those 3 teams? You're not taking the Yankees.
No,
you're not taking the Astros.
I'm not taking the Rays because they don't have anybody anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
there's nobody in the AL that even poses half of a threat, in my opinion. I mean, there's nobody. I mean, the White Sox have some pieces.
Yeah,
but they're not gonna do it. No. There's nobody in the American League.
I mean, it's like if you look at because a lot of these teams don't have any like in terms of on their bench, their managers and stuff, they don't have any postseason experience. Like the teams in the AL that have postseason experience, Aaron Boone has proved that in his 2 years there at the helm, he's went to the ALDS, got eliminated by Boston, and then he goes to the ALCS and I guess the first round series, or no, I guess they went to the ALDS, and they get eliminated all 3 years. So it's like
Yeah.
you can't trust Boone. Alex Cora's back with the Red Sox. They don't have a team now that they traded Betts away. I mean, I guess if you want to put all your chips in Xander Bogaerts, I guess maybe if you want to.
I'll
AJ Hinch is with the Tigers. The Tigers haven't had a plus 400 winning percentage in a decade. So
no, the AL is very
top heavy.
And it's not even top heavy.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be like the Yankees and the A's, and then there's everybody else.
Oh, for sure.
But
for
without
sure.
those are the two teams that I would think are the only real threats. But
yeah, I mean, and it's like even the Rays, who were without a doubt the best. It's like this season isn't going to be set up for them to succeed. Last year was perfect for them because they were playing openers every day. Like that is their style of baseball. And if they were ever going to win a World Series, it was last year. And then whenever they got to the World Series, they just got raffle stomped.
Yeah, I mean it's
by LA.
It's gonna be interesting because like the NL Central, I don't see a single team being clear cut coming out of that division. So they're obviously not going to put up a threat in the playoffs. I think the NL is a 4-team race right now. It's the Mets, the Braves, the Dodgers, and the Padres. And I don't. I mean, the Phillies, they'll stick around, but they're not going to. I don't think they're going to do a whole lot. The Nationals are the same way. Marlins aren't going to be the same team that they were, which they had a very good year, but let's be honest, they're not going to repeat that, I don't think. They had way too many guys just having kind of that beginner's luck.
Yeah.
Just kind of finding success here and there. The NL's top heavy, but it's because there's just so many good players on those three squads.
Oh, for sure.
I mean,
for sure.
That NLCS, if it comes down to Padres, Mets, first one to score is going to win every single game of that. It's going to be marked. Makes baseball exciting because I know the Cubs aren't going to be good this year. I can kind of sit back and watch everybody else. Going to make my experience a little bit better. But yeah, there's not really anything else going on baseball-wise. I haven't seen any other really trade rumors floating around. Yeah. I don't know if you have.
I haven't either. I mean, especially with concerns if they're actually going to play a full 162 game season, there's no real reason to get too excited about baseball yet. Just because if they're not going to allow fans into the stands, we've already seen Manfred put up a fight against hosting a whole season or as many games as possible. So no reason to get too excited about baseball yet. Once we figure out a start date and when training camps will open, then then we can start figuring out, all right, let's break down the teams and all that stuff. So
we are getting close because, I mean, spring training, I believe, reporting would be pretty close to like a month from now.
Yeah, it would be if we were to have a 162 game schedule.
Right. So we'll see. I mean, they've got to start getting that ball rolling. But once baseball's back, I think it'll be very interesting this year, especially compared to last year's kind of very odd, don't know what to expect season. Now we're going to get a little bit. There's going to be more teams with a fighting chance, I think. So that's good. But I've got a lot of football to talk about.
Let's do it.
Let's push it back. Let's do basketball first. Knock it out of the way so we can really just dive in.
Okay, let's do it.
I know you said the Knicks are good, or they might be good, and you're not wrong. I think they're 5-3.
Well, I didn't say they might be good. I said they low key might be
Yeah, I mean they're obviously it's been a very weird season. A lot of they beat the Bucks. The Bucks beat the Heat by like 60. The Mavericks beat the Clippers by 50.
Yeah. And it wasn't like they beat it's not like they beat the Bucks by like 2 and Giannis played 14 minutes. Both teams were at full strength, and the Knicks beat them by 20.
Yeah. The Knicks have been very hit or miss. Like, if you get a good game from Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett, they're going to be tough to beat. And that's what they showed the Pacers. Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson killed them on the glass.
Yep.
And then R.J. Barrett, for whatever reason, when he steps into Banker's life, he does not miss. I think he's I I want to say he's like 8 of 9 or 8 of 10 from 3-point range in Baker's, and he's 0 for 21 everywhere else. At least that was what it was after their last game, or after the last time they met up. But Austin Rivers, whatever. French Frank, whatever. I mean, they've just got a lot of guys that they need to kind of get more playing time. I think Toppin's going to be very good still.
Yeah.
They're a competitive team, but I don't think they're a 72 game knock off somebody in the playoffs team, which is not a bad thing. I mean, they were picking in the lottery the last 19 years, so
well, it's like
winning, but
no, I mean, I don't think they're close to winning a playoff series right now, because that would insinuate they're probably going to get like a top 4 seed, and that's just not going to happen, right? I mean, more than likely they'll be like fighting for like 7 or 8, I would assume. Tom Thibodeau's got guy's a competent head coach. I mean, the guy has, won playoff series. It's crazy what happens whenever you get someone good in the head coaching spot. It's what I'm excited the most about for the Knicks is that they're trying to build a winning culture there. And it's part of the reason why 2 summers ago they didn't land KD, Kyrie, or any of the big name free agents, is because they were intentionally tanking that whole year to get the number 1 pick, which they didn't end up getting. And players don't want to go to a losing culture. They don't want to go somewhere where they may be traded for cap space. And I think Thibodeau coming in there and showing that, they're going to fight hard to win games, I think that's going to be attractive to free agents come summer, because they have a lot of players that are on expiring deals. And so a lot of these players might be playing for a longer-term contract. They might be playing for extensions, this, that, or the other. But you're also trying to show free agents like a Kawhi or most of the big-name free agents have already signed extensions. But you're showing these free agents, for not just this summer, but summers moving forward, that this ain't your daddy's Knicks, all right? This is a Knicks team that's trying to win, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I think one guy that's really stood out for me with them is Alfred Payton. I feel like he's played very well quietly. Yeah. He's not going to get all that recognition, and he obviously hasn't been the same since he cut his hair. But yeah, he's been a very good, serviceable point guard. Obviously, I don't think he's like a building block. You're not going to have him start on a team that's going to win 60 games in a season. Yeah. But I mean, you can put him, if he's your backup point guard in the playoffs, well, whatever team you're on, you're in a very good position. Yeah. So I like the direction the Knicks are going in, which I didn't think I would be saying this early in the season.
And, it seems like everybody on that team kind of knows their role, right? No one on that team's trying to play too much hero ball. They're moving the ball around pretty well. Mitch Robinson's grabbing boards. Julius Randle's hitting shots. It seems like everybody on that team is fitting into what they're supposed to be doing pretty well right now. So, I'll kind of keep an eye out to see if that continues. They're on a 3-game winning streak. I don't know if that's happened in 3 calendar years, but we'll see.
Yeah, and then the Pacers, which they're 6-2, and both of their losses have come in the second meeting of a team that they've already beaten. They lost to Boston on the second night of a mini series, and then they lost to the Knicks on their first game of the 2021. Yep. They kicked the second half, and like the Pacers are really good. They're very balanced, like kind of like what the Knicks are. That everybody knows their role. Miles Turner's he'll either drop 17 points on 6 of 10 shooting, or he's going to come out and he's going to have 3 points and 5 rebounds, but he's going to contest every single shot at the rim. Last night, I believe he finished 5 rebounds, but he had 8 blocks. That right there saved 16 points. And then all the shots that he's altering at the rim, it's like if you don't block the shot, it's gone. I mean, he is going up, making guys shoot contested layups, and they're missing very badly. I mean, there's some ugly shots going up because guys don't want to get put on a highlight reel, and Turner does exactly that. I believe he's had the last 3 8-block games in the NBA, dating back over the last 2 seasons.
Doesn't he lead the NBA in blocks by like 20?
Yeah, I believe he's at 33, and the next closest is he might have 35, and the next closest is like 17 or something like that.
That's crazy.
He's
That's wild.
He might be up to 4 a game at this point. He had 8 last night.
Now, something I didn't want to mention to you about, obviously everyone that listens to this probably knows that you are editor for 8 Points 9 Seconds. You've followed this team for many years. What do you think Coach Berkran's doing different with Miles Turner that the previous coach, Nate McMillan, wasn't doing?
He just kind of opens things up. He lets him play his style on offense. He gives him the green light to shoot. And if his shot's not falling, but teams are respecting it, he's gotten better at handling the ball, and he's not afraid to drive. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that. I mean, it's only been an 8-game sample, but if he's not hitting his shots early in the game, he'll stop shooting and he'll attack the basket and get to the rim. Mm-hmm. Then defensively, they don't put him on the ball a whole lot. They have him kind of stay back. He cleans up the mess of Sabonis because they know that Sabonis isn't a good on-ball defender, and his best thing is rebounding. So they let Turner contest every shot, and Sabonis his only job on the defensive end is to get rebounds and put a body on guys. And that's one thing that I've been trying to, I guess, hammer home is that, Turner's only averaging 5.5 rebounds a game as a 7-footer. But that's just not how the NBA is anymore. You have one guy who's a rebounder, and a lot of teams encourage their guards and their playmakers to grab the board to start the break. Russell Westbrook does it. John Wall does it. James Harden does it. LeBron, but he's obviously a bigger guy. You just want your best players grabbing boards so you can get in transition quicker. And the Pacers, if Turner's going to contest a shot and deflect it, or at least put a body on the shooter, it's taking him out of the play for the rebound anyway. That's why you have a guy like Brogdon come in and grab it.
Yeah.
Because you can't expect Miles to I can't even talk. Contest the shot and then turn around on the other side of the rim and grab the rebound every single time. That's just not realistic. Yep. But I mean, yeah, he is soft on the offensive glass, but he's also playing on the perimeter quite a bit, so his numbers on that end are going to be a lot lower too. But Bjork's doing a good job of just getting everybody in a position where they know how to play. They're getting open shots on the perimeter. Aaron Holiday's not hitting them, but everybody's getting their shots and everybody's playing their role and doing it effectively, and that's why Indiana's 6-2. I think they're third place in the East, tied with Orlando of all teams. So the Pacers are really good. Vic's back and forth. He'll drop 25 and then drop 3 of 15 shooting the next night, but they're winning games. You can't really be mad. That ending in New Orleans the other night, I don't know if you saw that. They were down 10 with 2 minutes left. They were down 10, 2 minutes left. They came back. It was a 6-point game, I believe, with 30 seconds to go maybe. And Vic hit a deep 3, stole the inbounds pass, got it to Turner, who hit a 3 with 8 seconds left. They forced away a shot at the end, go to overtime, win in overtime. Even with Turner and Sabonis fouling out in overtime. So Indiana's doing a great job of just they keep games close, and then Turner and Oladipo take over in the final 2 minutes every single night, and that's what you want to see from two guys who we didn't think were going to be on the roster 2 months ago. So they haven't been distracted by anything. So, I mean, I guess shout out to them, but Pacers are fun, dude. Fan base maybe not so much, but the Pacers themselves, very good team. And I did just mention Orlando. They're 6-2 as well. Sucks, dude. Markelle Fultz out for the year. Yeah, the one guy I was excited to watch. He was finally getting back to his college self, and then knee kind of just gave up on him on what looked to be a Euro step. Didn't quite get there. Torn ACL out for the year. God, it sucked. He's finally playing so well. And the Magic looked like at least a fun team. Maybe not good, but 6-2 this early in the season. Whether it's a fluke or not, very fun. Whatever. It sucks, but injuries happen. You got to kind of move past it.
It's true.
But, basketball's been a fun year. A lot of weird stuff's happened.
Yeah.
Blowouts, upsets every night. I can't win a parlay to save my life because, listen, dude, this last week I had a parlay missed by 1 rebound, a parlay missed by 1 rebound, and a parlay missed because I had it. I think I took Lakers -9 over Memphis, and they won by 2. but it was a 9-point game with 30 seconds left, and they gave up a contested 3 to Dylan Brooks, who hadn't hit one all night. He hit 2 in the final 15 seconds to bring the game within whatever the spread was, and I lost it, so that was fun. But yeah,
that's
basketball
rough, man.
Very tough to bet on. I'm done doing it until tonight. I can't stay away, but yeah, I mean, it looks like everybody has a chance this year. I mean, the Lakers don't look as scary as we thought. Clippers obviously don't look very scary. Rockets have been off to a slow start.
Yep.
Wide open, dude.
It's pretty exciting, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
It's I don't know. It's not the NBA season I was envisioning. Usually by this time I'm kind of swearing off the NBA season. So
Yeah.
It's pretty fun to enjoy watching it for once. So hopefully that continues. So
Absolutely.
Now that we got that out of the way, we got plenty of football to talk about. Let's start with college football. Last week, college football playoff and the New Year's 6 games. And, a special game between Ole Miss and Indiana that I'm sure we'll touch on. Where do you want to start with that?
Dealer's choice. I don't care.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's start with the one game that I know you're dying to talk about. Ole Miss and Indiana. Indiana for weeks talking that shit. We're going to beat shit down Ole Miss's leg. We should be in a New Year's 6 game. We're the number 7 team in the country. This, that, the other. We're being disrespected by playing Ole Miss. What does Ole Miss do? They pull the upset in the Outback Bowl. So
Ole Miss is fun. I know that. I mean, their quarterback, Corral, he's going to be an interesting evaluation going forward for the NFL. Lane Kiffin obviously is going to get his guys ready. And I think I tweeted it a week or so before the game. Like, Indiana very clearly had a chance to lose that game because they didn't have motivation. And we talked about this with like UCF and LSU game a few years ago. Teams who feel like they got snubbed are not going to come out and play. And Indiana kept saying, well, no, we're different. No, you're not. It's very hard to get motivated for a game that doesn't matter and a game you don't care about. Yeah. And I mean, even though
it's hard to look at Iowa State. It's hard to look at Iowa State playing a New Year's 6 game or Oregon playing a New Year's 6 game, knowing that you could probably beat either of those two teams, and then you're playing Ole Miss in an Outback Bowl that's 12 p.m. on a Tuesday. You know, most people don't even know the game's on.
Yeah, in Tampa Bay where it's like 80 degrees, which also, I mean, I'm not gonna not to make an excuse, but that does definitely play in Ole Miss's favor, just being down south. I mean,
for sure,
100% in their favor. They've been around it all season, and Ole Miss plays up tempo. There were guys throwing up both sides. It was a ugly game. Indiana couldn't do anything. Their backup quarterback situation has to be fixed because Penix can't stay healthy. I mean, he's had like 14 injuries since he's been in Indiana. Jack Tuttle looked horrible in his first. I mean, he looked fine against Wisconsin, but they laid an egg, and they were kind of the laughingstock of college football for that day, just because. They should. I'm not gonna sit here and say they shouldn't have been in the New Year's 6. They still should have. You're gonna get a completely different team if that's the case. But I mean, it was still a very good season for them. They got, I believe they had 3 All-Americans, including their first ever first-team corner in Taiwan Mullen. Very good season for the Hoosiers. They just didn't end it on a high note, and that's going to hurt them going into next year.
Sure.
But they get a chance to bounce back next year. They start off with Iowa, then they get Idaho and Cincinnati. So those are 3 games that they should win, especially if Cincinnati
defense.
So
yeah. And speaking of Cincinnati, boy, it was a heartbreaker in Georgia. We were sitting here saying Cincinnati should have been the 4 team, and for 50 of the 60 minutes of that game, they definitely should have been. And honestly, I was about to say, even at the end of that game, I still think Cincinnati was the clear number 4 team in the country. I mean, it took a 54-yard. Well, you know what? Let's just talk about it. Cincinnati leads this game for 59 minutes and 56 seconds or whatever it was.
Pretty much, yeah.
They were leading by like 10 going into the 4th. They get it down to it was they were down 2 eventually late in the game. Instead of going for the touchdown, they take the sure field goal. They go up 2, and then shouts out to Georgia. They just run the field, take the touchdown. They kicked the 54-yarder, and that's a wrap.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look back and you want to say, like, Cincinnati or a group of 5 school doesn't deserve to be in the playoff, you can't use this game as an indictment on them, because Cincinnati went up against the second best team in the SEC and took them to the wire. And they should have won that game if it wasn't for the worst clock management I've ever seen in college football. You have the ball. It's like, 2 minutes left. Georgia had 1 timeout.
Yeah.
They snapped the ball with 12 seconds on the play clock, 11 seconds on the play clock, and then threw a pass on 3rd down, and it was incomplete. Had to punt the ball. They left like a minute 11 seconds on the clock, and they could have run it down to like 8 seconds.
Yeah.
They mismanaged it poorly, and Georgia went right down to advantage.
Yeah, that's right. I apologize for misremembering that. That 3rd down pass where Ritter kind of runs to the outside and then lobs it up. If that ball is just thrown on a line, the game's over, and we're not having this conversation. We're talking about how Cincinnati got robbed again about over Notre Dame, but Cincinnati had a damn good strategy throughout most of that game. They executed it pretty well until the final minute. I guess if you run the ball on 3rd down, you make them use their timeout, but you're likely not getting the first. And I guess if you get that 1st down, you could say, yeah, we went for it. That's how much we believe in our defense so much that even if we didn't get that, we thought we were gonna get. So just I don't know, just didn't work out.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sit here and act like Cincinnati would have done much better against Alabama than Notre Dame did, but I'm tired of seeing Notre Dame because they didn't look good from the very get-go. They fumbled the opening kickoff and almost lost it. It was almost over 8 seconds into the game, and it unfortunately only took 2.5 minutes for it to be over, which we'll talk about it. Notre Dame sucked. They put up a bullshit 4th quarter fight to give them a chance at a shot at next year's playoff run.
I was about to say they covered the spread.
They only lost by 14 instead of 30.
No, they lost by 17, and the spread was 19. So they backdoor covered. Shouts out to all the people that took Alabama because they fucked you there.
I was one of them. I'm well aware.
It's the game was over like 10 minutes in when it was like 17-0 or whatever it was.
Notre Dame was saying like, oh, it's not that hard what Alabama does. It's not hard. We know what they're doing. We just got to make sure we don't get fooled by their disguises. And they got fooled by their disguises every single time. Bama would just move Devonta Smith, like they would move him into the slot, and they had no idea what to do. Yeah. And Smith torched him. He had 3 touchdowns on 8 catches, I believe. And it was an absolute shit show on Notre Dame's side. And Devonta Smith, congratulations to him on winning the Heisman, first receiver since Desmond Howard in 91?
Yeah, something like that.
Likely going to be the number 1 wide receiver in the draft coming after this year, with the 2 guys ahead of him. For me, Jamar Chase opting out, and then Jalen Waddle, his teammate, breaking his ankle. Bama might get Jalen Waddle back for the championship game, and he's arguably the 2nd best receiver in the country. And he's missed half this season with a broken ankle. He's like, I'll just play 1 more college game on a bum ankle, go win a natty, and move on.
Yeah.
You can't stop that team. I don't care how good. Ohio State's defense is very good. They shut down Clemson. I love Ohio State. Bama's offense is different, dude. Najee Harris is going to kill them. Their passing game can't be stopped. Their offensive line's obviously good. It's all just 5-star dudes. Bama's defense doesn't mess around. Patrick Surtain won Player of the Game in the Rose Bowl simply because they didn't throw to him. They threw it at him like 0 times all night, and because they could, you throw it his way, it's incomplete. And
who had the most success against Alabama this year? Florida.
I want to say
I mean, but my point is, Florida put 45 on them, right, in the SEC title game.
Yeah.
And I never really felt like they had a chance to win that game, despite them putting up 45.
There was one team that made it tough on them. Ole Miss put up 48 on Bama. That was 63-48. I mean, Texas A&M didn't put up a fight. Western Carolina didn't put up a fight last year. Georgia didn't really put up a fight. Tennessee didn't put up a fight. They beat Mississippi State 41-0. They beat Kentucky 63-3. I mean, they beat the shit out of everybody. And I like Ohio State. I didn't think they were going to beat Clemson. Justin Fields' heroic day. We'll get to that in a second. But dude, Bama, if they lose to Ohio State, I will be completely shocked. I thought last year's LSU team was the best team we've ever seen in college football. This year's Bama team is probably better. I mean, this team is
crazy.
Loaded.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Their defense doesn't give up points. It's hard to beat somebody that's just that dynamic. So
and everyone was kind of talking about, it's like, well, I don't really care who's off the 4th seed to talk about who deserves to get blown out by 21 to Bama. And it's like, you hear that kind of stuff, and it's like, well, that's a little hyperbole. No, that's legitimate.
No. And then Notre Dame was going to say, well, Clemson got blown out by Ohio State. Yeah, but that game was really close until momentum took over in the second half.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, in any big game they've played since like 2000, have not been close. They have not gone off to a good start. The game's been over before the end of the first quarter. Yeah. I think ESPN showed the graphic of every Notre Dame New Year's 6 game, and it's just like blowout after blowout after blowout.
It's ugly. It's ugly. But now let's talk about the second game, the Sugar Bowl. Boy, that one, I think we both took Clemson to win that game. That game was over by halftime. I mean, I think with like 3 minutes to go when Ohio State got the ball back before their last touchdown of the first half, that game was a wrap. They were up 24 at half. It was just
and it happened so quick because Clemson scored that opening touchdown, and I was like, this might be a long night because they went right down. Etienne and Trevor Lawrence just ate them. And I was like, oh shit! But then here comes Trey Sermon once again saving the day for Ohio State. 3 straight just massive performances on his part. And he scores opening touchdown. It's tied at 7. I believe Clemson scores again, then Ohio State just goes on a tear.
Oh, yeah.
Once Fields takes the hit, and listen, actually, no. What's your take on that targeting call that Fields took to the ribs?
So, I mean, I think you had to do it. I mean, you threw Shaun Wade out last year, which essentially ended their season. If you're going to throw him out for the hit he had last year, I think you got to throw this guy out. I forget what his name is. My apologies. But
I don't even know how to say it. But
you got to throw him out, though. I mean, the thing is that he didn't hit him up high, but he used the one part of the helmet that's kind of outlawed no matter where you hit him. He hit him like right here. And really, he should be honest that he's not crippled right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The rule is not only to protect the ball carrier. The rule is to protect the hitter. You got to teach these guys to not – I mean, it was the exact same hit Ryan Shazier had.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you just thinking about from a physics standpoint, right? If you hit someone, like, you know, you're not usually hitting them like this. Like, usually you hit them and you know, it slides up or down or, you know, there's just somewhere for the force to be redirected. This guy hit him square up, and the force went back down his spine. I mean, he should be thankful that he's not drinking breakfast out of a straw right now.
Yeah.
Because that was a scary hit whenever you looked at it on slow-mo. I mean, granted, Fields took one to the ribs, and it looked like, damn, that probably hurt. It's like it's like, he didn't bounce to the side or he wasn't redirected. He took that square up, and then the recoil was straight back.
Yeah, and, like, it's not a dirty hit. I'm not going to sit here and crucify the kid. But it's a scary hit. You've got to – I mean, throwing him out is to teach him a lesson. He got thrown out last year, I think, in the national title game for a very similar play.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Justin Fields, listen. People were saying he's no longer quarterback 2 because he struggled against 2 of the best defenses in the country this year with Indiana and Northwestern. He'd about probably cracked every single rib in his body. He said after the game he wasn't diagnosed with anything. It was just his right side hurts really bad. And he was on fire that second half. Well, really the end of the first half and on. He came back like 2 plays later, threw a touchdown pass, limped right back to the sideline.
Yeah.
Threw an absolute piss missile to end the first half to his tight end in the end zone. Probably the best, though, in the college football season. Came out second half, led them, wasn't afraid to take hits. And Ohio State just pulled away in just in a hurry. Fields is quarterback 2. Trevor Lawrence is quarterback 1. We're not changing just because he beat them, right? It's not a one game. Oh, he's better. People wrote Fields off because he had a bad game. They better start putting him back on because he had the best performance of the season in the biggest moment on the biggest stage against arguably the best team in the country.
Yep.
I mean, Justin Fields, that was the most gutsy, tough. Everything he did was impressive.
Yeah.
Some team at number 2 is, if they don't make a mistake, are going to have a very good quarterback moving forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, this Ohio State Bama game is going to be fun. I think Bama still wins it pretty handily, but I want to see how Fields plays.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think I've thought about it, and Ohio State. I mean, I really thought they were going to lose probably by a couple scores to Clemson. I just thought, but now that I'm thinking about it in retrospect, it's like, man, I mean, even if you take Lawrence out of that game, or if you put Lawrence in that game the first time against Notre Dame still put the points on them. You know what I mean? And so it's not like their defense has been impenetrable all year. It's like while Alabama has given up points this year to both Ole Miss and Florida, I don't feel like they've ever been on upset alert this year.
No.
It's like whenever they were against Florida, Florida was putting up fourth quarter points, but they were also doing it down 3 scores. I mean, it's okay to give up a pass in prevent defense whenever you're up by 15 or whatever it was. You know what I mean? And but that can also play the other way. It's like we haven't seen Alabama play like these really high stress, tense defensive snaps this year. And so when if Ohio State puts them on their heels Monday night, how are they going to respond?
Yeah, I think that's what I want to look forward to.
We don't know that yet.
Yeah, can Bama withstand the pressure? Yeah, they will, because it's a Nick Saban team. They're going to know how to handle it, but they just haven't been tested a lot, and that's more so a credit to them instead of a knock on them. But
I give Ohio State a puncher's chance just because they have the offensive ability to go out there and put 50 on Bama if they fire on all cylinders. But I just see more ways for Alabama to win this game than what I do Ohio State. I think the only way Ohio State wins this game is to make it a slugfest, like a 52-49 kind of game. If this game is like 21-16, Alabama's winning it. I don't see any way Ohio State's defense is going to hold Alabama's offense to sub 35. I just don't see it.
Yeah, Ohio State has to go out there with the presence to just try to win. Just try to score as many points as you can, as quick as
every drive needs to be a touchdown drive for them.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because I know they had another COVID issue, which they've had like 3 times this season now. They're talking about maybe postponing this game. Listen, Bama keeps saying like, well, we don't. I mean, it's not fair to us. We haven't. But you can't say, hey, we want their best. We wish we could play them at their best. And then when they make arrangements to make it top versus top, and you're sitting there saying, oh, well, we don't. Well, that's not fair. No. If you want to play their best players, you play their best players, and you see what happens. I think Ohio State has it wouldn't completely shock me if they won. I just think it's more so the fact that Bama losing would be a surprise.
Oh yeah.
This team is just absurdly. They're just good all around. Special teams is even good, which Ohio State has struggled with the last few weeks.
And that's what I was going to say. It was like, we've seen Ohio State score defensive touchdowns this year. They had the pick 6 against Indiana that essentially put that game away. But we've seen Alabama. We've seen them score defensive touchdowns. We've seen Devonta Smith score special teams touchdowns. It's just like I said, they've got more ways to win this game. And, I mean, plus, I think something else that we haven't talked about yet. Has any coach in college football played more big games or coached more big games than Nick Saban? I mean, that guy basically lives in the college football playoff. The guy has done nothing but win and lose national title games. It's like, I mean, even his regular season matchups, he's been number 1 or number 2 or whatever for probably pretty much the last decade, right? So every week for the last 10 years, he's getting every team's best shot. Every team is circling Alabama on their calendar and said, if we're ever going to have our miracle moment, if we're ever going to, pull one off, we got to do it tonight. He's faced that for 10 years. And except for like an Auburn kick six or Clemson, whenever they beat them, whenever Trevor Lawrence beat them that first year. Their first year that they won? Tua. Well, no, Tua beat Georgia, didn't he? Tua beat Georgia
in the yeah.
And then Clemson beat Tua, yeah. So it's like, other than the Clemson game, other than the Auburn kick six game, it's like there's not too many instances I can point to and be like, yeah, that team kind of shit the bed in a big moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that team, like all they do is play in big moments. It's like if you go to Alabama, you go there to play these moments and you're expected to perform. And that's what they've done for 10 years. So.
Yeah, I mean, nobody goes into Arkansas and wins like Nick Saban. But no, I mean, his resume is remarkable.
And I just don't see Monday night being that different. You know what I mean?
No.
It's like he's coached against Urban Meyer. He's coached against Dabo Swinney, Jimbo Fisher, Chip Kelly, whenever Chip Kelly was the rage in Oregon. He's coached against all these big-name coaches, and, none of them have had continued success against him. You know what I mean?
No. I mean, his resume is arguably the best in college football history, and I don't think
if he wins on Monday night. I was about to say, I think if he wins on Monday night, it's pretty much a wrap. I mean, he would have the most natties, and then you add, however many first-round picks he's had drafted. If you've had, how many bowl wins he has, there's no team that does it like Alabama does it.
Dude, that's what's crazy. It's like, you mentioned first-round picks. Alabama probably has 6 or 7 first-round picks this year.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy.
I mean, they're coming off. They had the top 2 receivers drafted last year, and they could very well do the same thing this year. They're going to have a first-round quarterback, maybe a first-round left tackle, a first-round corner, potentially a first-round linebacker, maybe a first-round running back if he does go in the first. I mean, that team is stupid. It doesn't make sense how they can do it, but it's every year.
Yeah, and I was about to say, a few years ago, I've seen a photo come out in the last week. It's like at one point they had Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, and Mac Jones all in the same quarterback room.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time they had Calvin Ridley, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, and Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy all in the receiver room.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
They have, I mean, their running backs are the same way. They had T.J. Yeldon, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, and somebody else all at once.
That's
like
nuts,
they've got so many guys coming in every single year. There's just no way to stop them.
Yep.
And they really do. They don't rebuild. They just reload every single year.
Yeah. And I think they're going to be rewarded with the national championship Monday night.
Yeah, I think they win it. Whether it's close or a blowout, don't surprise me. But I think Bama's got it.
I think Bama probably wins that game like 42-30, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, it's probably in the same area for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and on the bright side, if you're looking for maybe Bama to fall off next year, they're replacing Mac Jones with the I think the number 2 quarterback prospect from last year's class.
That's
they've
good.
got like the number 1 running back in the country, and they've also got a handful of very good wide receivers coming up. So it should be another, 12, 13 win season for them at worst. So it's just absurd what they're doing. But it doesn't surprise anybody. They've been good since Forrest Gump was there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Bama's
No
just unreal.
kidding.
But
yeah,
jumping ahead to the NFL.
Let's do it.
No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say I don't expect Ohio State to get lucky with their defense holding a top 2 offense in the country to 28 points or whatever it was. Twice in 10 days. I don't see it. But
no, I don't either. But yeah, jumping ahead to the NFL, a lot of stuff came out today with head coaching stuff, GM stuff, trade rumors. Yep. Where do you want to start this at?
Let's go ahead and start with like the news and stuff, and then we can get into the playoff picks for this weekend.
Okay, so this morning it was rumored. Several outlets had talked about it. Deshaun Watson might be contemplating requesting a trade from Houston because the GM hire didn't really work or didn't really appease the players very much down in Houston. It's obviously been a very odd 2 years for them. Bill O'Brien tanked that franchise. They have no draft picks, no weapons outside of Watson. Watson says he wants if he wants traded. I don't care what you're giving up. You're giving it up for him. He's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Do not overthink it. I mean, it's Mahomes, it's Rodgers, and then it's Deshaun Watson for me. You can look at his numbers.
Really?
Yeah. You can tell me quarterbacks wins or matter. No. This dude put up MVP numbers, and his team went 4-12. He has no run game and no receivers, and he's out here putting up 4,000 yards a season. No offensive line. And you can make the case, it's all garbage time. It's not. He's keeping his team in the game. His defense just can't get the stop when it matters. I mean, he is an elite quarterback, MVP candidate every year. I hope he goes somewhere. I mean, everybody's going to have a chance to get him. I think everybody except for Jacksonville should be testing the waters. They said the trade isn't undoable with his contract. There's a way to work it in.
Yeah,
it's not like a Carson Wentz situation where it's kind of a mess to try to work it out.
Yep.
Outside of Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 pick, I think the Jets could do it at 2. They could try to work it. They've got plenty of draft picks they can work with. The Niners can try to make something work with Garoppolo and picks.
Yep.
Atlanta, Indianapolis. I don't think they'd go inside the division, but Carolina would make sense. Washington needs a quarterback badly, and they would be probably the favorite to come out of that division. Denver, they can't get quarterback stability. I know I like Drew Lock, but it hasn't worked out for them. They've got good receiving core. Every team in the league should be calling about what his price is, and if it's 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, and a starter, do it. You're not finding. You're not finding a quarterback of his caliber with those picks.
Damn, that's
looking at the first round quarterbacks of the last
6 picks though. That's 6 picks.
Yeah, and guess what? You get a franchise quarterback. You put Deshaun Watson on the 49ers, and you tell me that's not a Super Bowl favorite.
Shit, that's a lot of picks, man.
I would much rather have Deshaun Watson than 6 hypothetical hits.
Man, that's crazy. That's great. I don't know if I could go that far, but I get your sentiment though.
I'm doing it every single time.
That's wild. That is wild.
I mean, there's only a handful of teams that could fit him under the cap. I know a lot of people said the Saints would make sense. Yeah, they're already $90 million over the cap limit next year. There's no way they're working to trade for a $40 million quarterback when they've already sucked $20 million into Taysom goddamn Hill. But I'm not going to get started. But I hope Watson gets out of Houston. I think wherever he goes, he turns him into a contender.
Yeah.
As long as he's got at least one weapon. I think pretty much anybody outside of New England, he makes a contender because they have nothing there. But the Jets would be immaculately better with him and without Adam Gase. But we'll see what happens. Sky's the limit. There's so many options for that. But one thing I wanted to do today, with all these head coach openings still unfilled. Interviews are going on. I wanted to run through and kind of give my picks for everybody, all of them. Obviously, these aren't going to be accurate. And I put one in for Philly because Doug Peterson is still the guy. He shouldn't be. So hypothetically, he should be fired and they should replace him.
Well, you know what? Let's start there. Let's start with Doug Peterson. There's a lot of talk coming out. So Philly, obviously Sunday night. What happens? They tank the end of that game. I mean, it's blatantly obvious to everyone who watches it. Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth openly joking about it throughout the fourth. As an Eagles fan, I was not terribly mad to get the 6th pick. You know, that's kind of nice. But it's coming out that like a bunch of players are pissed off at Peterson, saying, "Hey, we're trying to win games over here. You know, you're trying to mess with our bonuses, yada yada yada." Peterson lost that locker room, you think?
I mean, yeah. Miles Sanders said that a lot of guys were confused. They didn't understand it. Jalen Hurts was visibly upset on the sideline. I think you could see him say, like, "That's not right. Why would you take me out?"
Yeah.
If you are looking at a potential top 5 pick or number 6, wherever they ended up at, and you have a quarterback controversy and you don't know where you're going to go, why are you taking your quarterback of the future out when he has a chance to prove that he is the guy moving forward? Because now, if you go into next year and Hurts isn't the guy, but if he doesn't plan out the way that you expected it to, and you didn't give him a shot last year or this year to find out, if you don't trade or if you don't start him and you draft somebody else, well, then you just wasted a year of Hurts, and you basically said, "Here's 2.5 games. Sorry, you're no longer the starter." And he could still be very good, but you don't know because you didn't let him play in a crunch time of a big game. He had a chance to knock out a playoffs team, and they just pulled him. And it doesn't make sense. I think a lot of guys are pissed.
I mean, it's not like Nate Sudfeld. It's not like Nate Sudfeld starting week 1. You know.
No.
So why are we playing them in the?
If you would have gone to Wentz, it makes sense. Kind of. Not really at all. But it makes more sense than Sudfeld.
Yeah.
Wentz was inactive. Sudfeld hasn't been good. I mean, yeah, I like Sudfeld. He's an IU guy. Doesn't mean he's good, okay? He turned it over like twice within 30 seconds of stepping on the field. And you're out here talking about, "Oh, well, Jalen Hurts, we don't know what we have in him." Yeah, because you aren't playing him. I'm sorry. That's on you. And you lose your locker room like that, and then guys don't want to play for you. They lose respect for you. Then you get to come back next year and you get your job, but these guys who didn't get a chance to play their final, 2 quarters of their season, they don't get their jobs back because you were an asshole and pulled everybody that mattered. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how he still has his job. And if that call came from somebody upstairs, they should be fired too, because that should not happen. I understand tanking and trying to get the best pick, but tanking the second half of a game that you're winning just doesn't make sense. It's blatant. And
you know, if they won that game, they would have had the 9 pick, right? But Howie Rosenthal, he hasn't hit on a pick since Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz only hit for like 2 years before the first knee injury. It's like since he drafted Wentz, like every first rounder he's drafted has been a bust, essentially. I mean, even Rager this year, it's like Rager hasn't been terrible. He was injured for a lot of the year. But it's like, you know who was available at 21? Justin Jefferson. You know who went at 22? Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know. And Justin Jefferson's probably going to be the offensive rookie of the year, or at least he deserves to be. The guy put up insane numbers this year. You're telling me he wouldn't have helped out Carson Wentz throughout the majority of the year when he had no weapons?
Yeah, I think Philly's issue with drafting is they're taking guys with upside and they're taking risks on guys who have dealt with injuries who are just fast. No, you take guys that are good. If they go out next year and they don't take – if Devonta Smith or Jamar Chase is on the clock and they don't take them and they take somebody else with upside, no, that's fireable. You shouldn't – take a proven guy for once, because obviously you're banking on guys who aren't working.
I really think that if Devonta Smith is available at 6, they will end up taking him now.
They have.
I just think, yeah, because I mean, if you look at the top 5, you probably got Lawrence is going 1. Fields is most likely going number 2, unless the Jets decide Darnold is their guy and they're going to take the left tackle out of. They're going to take Sewell out of Oregon.
Yeah.
And then it's like number 3 is Miami. Miami, who are they going to go with?
Miami could be a sleeper at receiver.
I was about to say
they trade out.
Yeah, I was about to say I could see them taking Devonta Smith, but if Fields goes at 2, they would be dumb not to take Sewell at 3.
Yeah.
So, and then 4 and 5, I forget who's picking. I think it's Denver and someone else picking at 4 and 5.
I think Atlanta's at 4. I don't know who's at 5. It might be Denver.
But and you know, maybe one of those two take Devonta Smith. I'm not sure, but I think if Devonta Smith's available at 6, that's who the Eagles will take. And you know, I don't know. I don't have much confidence in him at this point, though. I mean, you just went 4-11-1.
Yeah, I mean they've got to do something. I don't know. They don't have the cap space. They can't make any big moves.
Yep.
They're in a bad spot, dude. Fire Peterson. Get a new head coach in there who wants to work with Jalen Hurts.
And, you know, they've even talked about trying to move. I mean, we talked about Wentz's contract just about 10 minutes ago. Wentz's contract is almost unmovable the way that it's currently structured. Wentz has talked about paying back $20 million to get out of Philly. Do you know how bad Philly must be right now if he's willing to give up $20 million to get out? I mean,
it's pretty telling.
They need to get rid of Peterson. So if we do get rid of Peterson in Philadelphia, who do you recommend to replace him?
The one guy I really like is Brian Daboll. He is Buffalo's offensive coordinator, but I think his market's very, very popular. One guy to keep an eye on is Matt Eberflus I think he's the Colts defensive coordinator. I believe he came from Dallas as well. Listen, Philly's defense isn't great, but Eberflus turned that Colts defense around. Yeah. They were one of the worst in the league a couple years ago. Now they're one of the most dangerous. They create turnovers. They disguise. They blitz. I mean, Darius Leonard, they use him in so many ways. It's hard to figure him out. The Eagles can replicate that. I think they've got players that are obviously not the same level as Leonard, but they're very similar in play style. They've got Davion Taylor. They've got Sean Bradley, and there's another one on that roster.
They got Darius Slade.
They've got guys who can just put them on the right spot. Kayvon Wallace can be a weapon in that defense. Yeah. It's just a matter of getting somebody in there who can figure it out. I believe Jim Schwartz is retiring, which is, oh no. There goes their 2004 system. But Eberflus is a guy that I think is going to get a lot of attention. I think he makes a lot of sense as his first-time head coaching gig, going to a team like Philly they still have weapons on both sides. They're just getting older. They got to get the most out of the young guys, use the veterans as leaders. And
I think they do need a defensive-minded head coach in Philly. Philly, you know, they need some grit. I mean, they didn't have much this year. I mean, in every big game except the Seattle game, they folded. I mean, straight up. They folded against Washington first week of the year, and that's when I should have known. But, you know, it is. They need some grit. And any defensive-minded coach, I think, would help provide that.
Yeah, and, I mean, I think a lot of the trend right now is to go get an offensive guy because you have a lot of young quarterbacks who are exciting to work with. You get them an offensive guy who can create for them. It makes it a little bit more exciting for the fans, but you've got to have a good defense if you want to win. That's just the honest truth. Yep. But speaking of Daboll, I did talk about him. He's probably the hottest offensive name on the market right now. I mean, Buffalo's offense is putting up, it's not even video game numbers at this point. They're putting up like college Bama over Carolina or Western Carolina numbers. Daboll to the Chargers with Justin Herbert and that receiving core could be very similar to Josh Allen and what they've got in Buffalo. I mean, you got a big guy, strong arm, mobile quarterback with 2 elite wide receiver weapons and a running game that doesn't feature a superstar, but can. I mean, they've got Eckler and Justin Jackson and They've got a rookie. I can't think of his name. Kelly, I believe. Josh Kelly. I mean, they've got a lot of guys. That offense can take off. They let go of Anthony Lynn, which his season was very interesting. Very good offensive coach. Time management is not there. He's going to be a very good offensive coordinator, not going to be a good head coach, I don't think. Minnesota, please call him as your offensive coordinator. But dabble in Los Angeles, that team would be so fun.
I was about to say the Los Angeles gig would probably be one of the most attractive ones in the league right now because Los Angeles beat Kansas City. They hung in there with many teams this year. I mean, how many games were they leading in the fourth quarter and just lost it?
Several. I don't know how many, but it was a lot.
I was about to say, if they could just figure out how to run the clock right, they may be a playoff team. And in the AFC this year, we saw being a playoff team met 11 wins.
Yeah. The Chargers' biggest thing or biggest issue for like 5 years now has just been health. Derwin James cannot stay healthy, which sucks because he's one of the best players in the league when he's on the field. Joey Bosa, I think he's been healthy this year, but it's been on and off. Melvin Ingram's been on and off. They finally got a stable quarterback they can rely on. Keenan Allen, if he can play 16 games every year, you've got yourself arguably a top 5 wide receiver in the league. Mike Williams is very good. Hunter Henry finally stayed healthy, which we haven't seen that like ever. Defensively, offensive line can't stay healthy ever. That offensive line has been they're playing third stringers, it seems like, every week. Defensively, they've got pieces. Obviously, Derwin James. They've got good cornerbacks. They traded Desmond King, which sucks. But like that, very attractive coaching hire. And I think it's going to be the number 2 spot for a lot of candidates behind Jacksonville because Jacksonville's going to get. They've got 11 draft picks, I believe, and they're getting Trevor Lawrence. They've got a receiving core that is going to be dynamic. They got a Rookie of the Year candidate at running back. Yep. Defensively, they've got pieces. They had 2 first-round picks last year, I believe, spent on defense. They have 2 more first-round picks this year. I mean, outside of Jacksonville, Los Angeles is probably my favorite opening. So I want to see. Hopefully, they get somebody good in there. Please don't hire some offensive assistant from some team that was good 3 years ago, and hope it works.
Well, speaking of Jacksonville, who do you got taking the Jacksonville job?
Joe Brady, I think, is ready, dude. I know that he's only been in the NFL for a year. He was at LSU. They were very good. He comes to the Panthers this year as their offensive coordinator, and they've got like the best receiving trio in the league, despite Teddy Bridgewater having a not very good year at quarterback. Christian McCaffrey couldn't stay healthy, but their offense was at least scary, right? Their offense put up points even with Mike Davis leading the charge at running back. Put him in Jacksonville. Give him James Robinson, Trevor Lawrence, Laviska Shenault, DJ Chark, and D.D. Westbrook, I believe, is still there. Like, they've got so many fun pieces. You draft Trevor Lawrence and another – take a wide receiver with your second first-round pick. I don't care. That team's going to be maybe not competitive right away, but very fun. Defensively, you've got C.J. Henderson, Sidney Jones, Miles Jack, and I mean, then you can just build the front 4 with that with the draft. They got Caleb Von Chase on last year off the edge, who had a pretty decent season. They get a second-round pick from Minnesota, which they got in the Ngakoue trade. Jacksonville's very exciting. I mean, they've got weapons. They just haven't had a quarterback. You put Trevor Lawrence in there instead of Gardner Minshew, and that team can be, I don't know, a lot better. So
more than one win?
Yeah. I mean, Lawrence is the best prospect I've ever seen at quarterback. So, yeah. I would that would be the only coaching spot that I'm like, I would quit my job for. If I was a head coach somewhere else, I'd ask to be out of that job to go interview for that one. So Jacksonville, keep an eye out for them because they could very easily go from worst to first next year if things go their way.
I like it.
Shit. Let's see. That's 3 spots taken. Let's go. Jets pick second in the draft. I don't know much about why I picked this guy. Okay.
Rex Ryan.
No. There's a lot of guys available. I think that they could go either offensive or defensive. Obviously, their offensive head coaches haven't worked. Defensively, if they were going to go somewhere, I would look at Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator for the Saints.
Yeah.
But I went with Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator at Tennessee. Obviously, they're not going to be running the ball the same way Tennessee is. But with a guy like Mekhi Becton at left tackle, you can run a very similar scheme. Just go get your quarterback at 2, draft a running back somewhere on day 2, and boom, you've got a very good team. I think they've got 2 first-round picks again this year thanks to the Jamal Adams trade. That's not a super awesome opening because that team kind of sucks, but you give them Justin Fields, Najee Harris, and Chris Olave. Well, look at that. That offense is exciting again. So at least the Jets will be tolerable. They just haven't drafted well since, I don't know, I've been a kid. They've got to figure something else out.
Yeah.
Let's see. Another one that is interesting. I picked this one before the Watson news broke, but Houston, I really want them to get Greg Roman, who's the OC with Baltimore. He had a rough start this year, but obviously that offense can run the ball, and Houston cannot run the ball to save their lives. You can dial things up with Watson that you can't really do with most other quarterbacks. He's not the same runner as Lamar Jackson, obviously. But if you get a scheme in there that you can run the ball and you can open things up in the passing game using play action and use the tight ends, because I like Houston's tight ends. I like Akins quite a bit. They can be a scary offense. They just don't have a defense. Screw it. Just go all offense. Just try to score as many points as you can. Win every game 40-38. Have yourself a season. Run through these last ones real quick. I don't know how many I've gone through. Let's see. Eric Bieniemy, obviously the biggest name probably offensively, Chiefs offensive coordinator. Put him in Atlanta. Let Atlanta draft a quarterback at 4. Let him take whoever he wants. If he ends up with Zach Wilson, with Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones and Russell Gage on the outside, Atlanta's a scary team once again. It might not be right away, but very soon. And then Detroit, the last one. I like Detroit's roster if they keep Matt Stafford. I hate their roster if they don't keep Matt Stafford. They are not a good team. Matt Stafford makes them somewhat competitive. But I think the guy that sticks out is Robert Saleh. He's been the biggest name for them since he started interviewing a couple weeks ago. He was a big name for them last year if they were to move on from Patricia early. Defensive coordinator for the Niners. He's going to get a shot this year. Why not make it Detroit, who hasn't had a good defense since like 2007? I think it was like the last time they were in the top half of the league. So, yeah, I mean, Saleh deserves a chance. He put up a fight this year with basically second-string corners starting every single game. And San Francisco's defense was never the reason they were losing. So put him in Detroit. Please don't let Bieniemy or Dabble go to Detroit, and we'll be rocking.
Oh, man, it's funny how one player can change the whole outlook of the franchise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look at where Houston would be without Watson. If they had any other quarterback, they're probably 0-16 instead of 4-12.
Now, let's say Matt Stafford does move on from Detroit. Where would you like to see him go most? Indianapolis?
Indianapolis makes the most sense because they've got the money and they have a glaring need at quarterback. Phillip Rivers was okay this year. Yeah, Matt Stafford put that team in the Super Bowl. Okay?
Yeah.
If he's healthy, which I think he will be, behind a not complete dog shit offensive line. Washington makes a lot of sense too, because they tend to look at veteran quarterbacks, and Ron Rivera likes to have those proven guys. He had Cam Newton, obviously, who he rolled with, and then went and rolled with Alex Smith this year. I would love Matt Stafford in that team. Offensive line's a bit scarier, and that field is not one that I want to see him play on because it's dangerous. It eats guys alive. But just looking at their roster and what they could be, that team won a division with Alex Smith. They could easily win it with Matt Stafford. And then the other one
Yeah.
that I would want to keep an eye on would be Denver. I think
Ooh,
they're in
okay.
their running. They need to do something at quarterback. We've seen them do it with Joe Flacco, with Peyton Manning. They go get proven vets. Stafford's not all that outlandish to think for them to get. I think it's tricky because of their cap situation with so much tied into Von Miller. But you put Matt Stafford on a team with those weapons, you're going to do just fine. So anywhere he goes, except for Detroit, I think he makes him better. So I do really like the prospects of him moving on somewhere.
And Matt Stafford, I mean, has he ever won a playoff game?
I don't think so.
Is he the best quarterback to never win a playoff game?
It's probably close. I don't know who else would be in that consideration, but coming to mind, yeah, it's him.
Yeah, I mean, like you have so many quarterbacks around the NFL who praise him and just say that, I mean, without him, that team is the Jaguars perpetually,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you the last time they hit on a draft pick. I mean, they drafted number 3 last year, drafted Okuda, and look how much better that team got. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, they've never had a run game or an offensive line or a defense. It's all been just Matt Stafford and his number one receiver,
yeah,
whether it was Megatron or Marvin Jones. It's
yep.
just those two guys, and that's their whole. I mean, this Week 17 game, I think Stafford threw for like 350, and Marvin Jones had like 180 of it and 2 or 3 touchdowns against Minnesota. Like, outside of
That's
that, there's
crazy.
nothing to worry about with that team.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Stafford is just unreal. I hope he gets a shot to play somewhere competitive because, I mean, you put him in Indianapolis, a team who has the cap space and a decent offensive line,
Yep.
a run game that was dominant this year, and a defense that can make plays.
And a
Guess what?
good quarter and a good coach in Frank Wright.
Yeah. You put Matt Stafford in that squad, and that team is 14 wins, in my opinion.
Whew.
As long as they're healthy, obviously. But,
Damn.
I mean, it's unfortunate how bad his career's been ruined, just like Megatron's, just like Barry Sanders. And he stuck through it. He played a Week 17 game with like 14 injuries listed on him in a game that meant nothing because it might have been the last one he ever played in Detroit, and he cared. And he went out there and he gave it his – I mean, he put up like 35 points and lost.
Yeah.
And he does everything he can.
That's pretty representative of his entire career. It's like dude can't play defense,
No. It's like Kirk Cousins. If he loses games, it's his fault. If he wins games, it's because his team around him was better. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've said it. He's a Hall of Famer in my opinion, and he deserves a lot more respect than he gets from casual fans. I think a lot of people around the NFL respect who he is, but I think a lot of casual watchers just see his record and think he sucks. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate.
damn shame.
Yeah.
Damn
Sorry,
shame.
he's not Jimmy Garoppolo with a Super Bowl trophy or a Super Bowl run because his team ran it 75 times a game, and his defense was one of the best in football. Single injury all year.
Yeah.
But yeah, that leads us into speaking of playoff wins. Wild card weekend kicks off on Saturday.
Yep.
Got 3 games every day now, which is going to be awesome. I don't even know the schedule. Let me pull that up real quick. We'll run through some picks for you.
And before we get into this weekend's picks, let's go ahead and recap our season-long picks. We knew weeks ago that I had won the locks category. And going into last week, Luke had a game advantage in the money line and a half game advantage in the spread, if I recall correctly.
I believe that's right.
How did we finish?
I'm trying to find it. It's not opening on my computer. Oh, wait, here it is. Hang on. All right, so last week, oh my God, hang on. This is a mess. Last week you went 6-0 money line. I went 5-1. I went 3-3 on spread. You went 4-1-1. We tied on the money line, and then the spread. God, it's such a mess. You went 49-50-3. I went 49-52-1. So you technically got me by a game on that. So you ended up winning it by a game on the spread and like 5 games on the lock, and then we tied the money line. So competitive year. It went legit down to the wire. And if it wasn't for Kyler Murray getting hurt in that final week 17, like in like the opening drive of that game, I probably win the whole season because that cost me 1 game money line and 1 game spread. So would have been a much different story, but very close.
Good week to end the year on this Watson to finish our year off. So what?
It was nice to have it end on week 17 instead of it being over on like week 12 and nothing mattered. A big blowout. So it was good to actually have the last matter. Very fun week 17 with a lot riding on playoffs and everything, but it was very good. Good end of the season. We both had good last few weeks, so that made it not as disappointing of an end.
Yeah. Feels good, man.
Yeah.
It feels good. So let's get into this weekend. I believe first game on Saturday, we have the Indianapolis Colts against the Big Dick Buffalo Bills. Is there any chance Indianapolis wins that game? No. Buffalo's beating shit down their leg. Am I right?
If they force turnovers, Indiana's got a chance. If they don't, Buffalo is going to torch them. I don't see anybody on the Indianapolis team that's stopping Stephon Diggs.
No, they put up like their Week 17 matchup. They're playing a team that has to win to get into the playoffs. All right, they're playing a 10-win, trying to become an 11-win Miami team, who's playing with literally everything on the line. Buffalo, as long as basically they weren't playing for anything. Pittsburgh had pulled all their starters to start the week.
Buffalo pulled their guys at halftime, and they still won by 40 points.
Yeah, they put up 56 on the Dolphins. There's a lot of fraudulent teams in the NFL right now. The Packers are frauds. The Saints are frauds. The Colts are frauds. Steelers are frauds. Browns are frauds. Every team except for 2 are frauds. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. Those are the only 2 legitimately good teams in the NFL. And Buffalo's going to come out and just beat the shit out of the Colts.
Yeah, I think Buffalo wins it very easily, but like I said, the Colts big thing is they pride themselves on turnovers. If they can get into Allen's face and force bad throws, then they'll have a shot. But I don't see it happening. Allen has done a very good job of taking care of the ball this year.
Yeah.
Diggs gets open. I don't know if they're going to put Rhodes on him. I don't know if they're going to put TJ Carey on him. It doesn't matter. Stephon Diggs is torching this team. He led the league in receptions this year, I believe. Don't have a shot.
The game's being held in Buffalo in January. You're telling me Phillip Rivers?
That's a good point.
Spent his entire career in Indianapolis in a 20-degree Buffalo and just no, it's not happening. This shit's a wrap. Buffalo. I don't know what the line is. I think they're like a touchdown favorite. Easy money.
Yeah.
I got Buffalo winning.
Yeah, I've got Buffalo. I'm going to call it 37-20.
I was going to say 34-20, so I agree with you.
4:00, 4:40 on Saturday, Rams-Seahawks NFC West division matchup. Saw it coming a mile away. These 2 teams have been back and forth, good and not good, all year long. Seahawks finish the season on a strong note. The Rams limp right into the playoffs. We don't know if Jared Goff's going to play or not. Yeah, Seattle. 31-14. I don't know.
Money.
Is John Wolford going to beat
Russell
Wilson in the playoff game? Probably not.
34-17, Seattle rolls. Russell Wilson, the guy's won playoff games. This one should be no different. Sean McVay, thanks for Seattle. They should make light work and start preparing for New Orleans.
Yeah, It's not. That's probably gonna be the most boring game of the week. Even though I do really like both teams, if it's not Jared Goff, that game's gonna be worthless. Nightcap on Saturday. Tom Brady, his first ever road game on Wild Card Weekend.
Damn.
He's playing Washington,
That's crazy.
who, whether they deserve to be in the playoffs or not, they're in it. Their defense is fun. Chase Young versus Tristan Wirfs, two of the best rookies this season going at it. I mean, give me Tampa Bay, but Washington's going to make this a fight.
I mean, does Washington have a chance to put Tampa Bay on upset alert?
They've got a shot, yeah.
I mean, Alex Smith is, God, for as great as his story's been, and I'm happy to see him in the NFL, but, man, it's just, you got to ask yourself if he can physically do it. I mean, the guy, mentally tough as nails. Great story, but it's almost painful watching him move around back there, man. Every time he gets hit, I just pray his leg doesn't go Rice Krispie on me, man. Like, I just...
Yeah. I mean...
They get rid of Haskins, too, so...
Yeah, I don't think either team has to score. I think it's going to be like 23-17 Tampa. Okay. But if Washington can hold them even low... I mean, Washington's front seven, we've been saying it, is the best in football. If Chase Young gets another strip sack, guess what? That game changes completely.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if Washington pulls it off, but Tampa Bay...
I was about to say...
Guys.
Tampa Bay has been super up and down this year. They shit the bed on Sunday night against New Orleans. They lost a couple games this year where they should have won pretty handedly. And Washington, man, there's a lot to say for momentum. They're 5-2 in their last 7. They're going to be hosting this game in Washington against a warm weather team. If they can run the ball effectively, control clock, it's got the makings for an upset. It really does. I am going to take Tampa Bay, though. I think Tampa Bay probably wins this one, let's say 27-21. Put them on an upset alert.
If Mike Evans doesn't play, it's going to make it a lot more interesting. But if he's out there, I think Tampa Bay's got it a little bit more comfortably.
Yeah.
Sunday, 1 o'clock. I wish this game was later. But Ravens-Titans, rematch of last year's game. Both teams want to run the ball and control the clock. Both teams want to force turnovers on defense and make it hard to run the ball on them. Story of this game, whoever runs the ball more between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry is winning this game. Give me Baltimore in the upset. I don't know what the line is.
Okay.
Baltimore wants revenge from last year. They want to make this difficult. Derrick Henry's been dominant in the second half of games this season. They got to take him out of the equation early and get a sizable lead. If they get up 10, 14 points in the first half and not to say Tannehill's a bad quarterback, but if you make him throw it and you can't rely on the run game whatsoever, Baltimore's going to be in very good position. And I think Lamar Jackson finally steps up and gets his playoff win.
Yeah, it's it kind of goes back to the Alabama-Ohio State discussion we had earlier. Baltimore has more ways to win this game than Tennessee. But, boy, I mean, Tennessee, it's a home game. If you can control Lamar Jackson, I mean, it's a very steep uphill climb for Baltimore. I'm going to take Tennessee to win that game. I think Tennessee wins that one close. I'm going to say 27-24.
I'm going to go
close.
I'm going to go 24-23. I think Justin Tucker's going to be the hero, like he always is. I mean, the dude doesn't miss. Please don't jinx it. But 24-23 Baltimore, very good, very close game of the weekend for me. The 4:30 game on Sunday, a game nobody cares about, Bears-Saints. Saints, yeah. Is Mitch Trubisky going to finally prove that he's the best quarterback in the 2017 class? I highly doubt it. Drew Brees doesn't have to play well. The Saints don't have to play well. They're going to get Kamara back in time, most likely. Yeah, the Bears had a good, somewhat decent end of the season. They got shit on by Green Bay in Week 17 when they had a chance to cement themselves. Bears aren't good. They're 9-7, I think. I don't even know what their record is. They shouldn't be in the playoffs. They're bad. Browns Steelers 8:15 Sunday night. If the Browns don't have Stefanski. The Steelers don't have a run game. I don't know what to make of this game. I wish I could pick a tie, okay? But give me the Browns, and I'm not confident, nor am I confident that it's going to be a good game. The Browns 17-16.
You think the Browns win it?
Yeah, no. I'm picking them. I don't think they win.
I think
either.
I think the Browns win this game. I think the Browns win this game. Boy, this one's going to be ugly. The fact that it's Sunday night is almost offensive. I'm going to say Browns like 23-20. I mean, this game just
This game should be the Saturday 1 o'clock ESPN game. For all the times I've sat there and watched the Texans play the Saturday 1 o'clock game, I would rather watch this stupid bullshit. Browns with nobody healthy, Steelers with nobody good matchup. I mean, this game's going to suck, dude.
Yeah.
What is that? Damn.
Yeah.
Is that the 3v6?
Yeah. Yeah.
So most likely winner's going to go get Kansas City. If Cleveland wins, they're going to get Kansas City. If Pittsburgh wins, they're going to get
Buffalo,
yeah. It's a damn shame.
Yeah, I think boy, yeah, that is bad. Pittsburgh might be I'll say I think Pittsburgh's the worst team remaining. And that includes Chicago. Pittsburgh has no run game, and it's January. You need to run the ball.
Yeah, you can't win in the playoffs without a run game. And everybody, I mean, the Browns run the ball, the Bears run the ball, the Saints run the ball, Titans, Ravens, Seattle, Buffalo, Indy, they all run it. The only teams that don't are really Tampa Bay, but they can if they need to. Washington, that's just because they don't have a very good offense in general. And the Rams, they're just more of a disguise offense. Other than that, I mean, the Steelers don't do anything impressive. If they push the field, they'll be all right. They hung with Cleveland last week, but what was Cleveland playing for? They had that game locked up. It was really funny to sit here and see Steelers fans on Twitter talking like, oh, you guys barely beat our backups. Okay, but you talked mad shit to the Ravens, who you barely beat with their backups.
Yeah.
You almost lost a game to Robert Griffin III. And this isn't 2015 or whatever. You don't deserve to talk shit to a team. And now the Browns don't even have a head coach. They don't have Joel Bitonio, who's I feel so bad for the dude because he sat through an 0-16 season, finally got them to the playoffs. Now he doesn't get to play in what might be their only playoff game in the next decade. Dude, that game's going to suck so bad. It doesn't matter. Whoever wins is going to go out there and get blown out next week.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree with that.
But, hey, well, I guess we'll know more.
So, yeah.
Really nothing else I've got for football talk. I know next week I might run through a quick mock draft of the non-playoff teams. Other than that, that's really about all I got. Obviously, we'll recap the games, preview next week's games, but
Sure. I think next week we might talk a little hockey. Starts on Wednesday night, puck drop. Might talk a little hockey next week. Probably talk a little bit more NBA, some college basketball, maybe. Who knows? We'll see what happens when that time comes.
Hell yeah, sounds good.
So yeah. Other than that, got Conor McGregor fight here in a couple weeks. You might have to watch that on some Saturday night.
Hell yeah! Make sure I got my pay-per-view ready to go.
You should. Did you see the Luke Campbell Ryan Garcia knockout this weekend?
Nope.
Hell of a body shot from Garcia. Hell of a body shot. Go check it out if you haven't. He got knocked down in the second, knocks out Campbell. Former Olympic gold medalist Luke Campbell in the 7th. Good fight. I highly recommend it.
I'll have to go check it.
It's probably the fight of the year so far.
All right, if you say so.
It's only 7 days in. But
Yeah, I
probably,
mean,
probably fight of the year so far. So
I guess you can't be too wrong. But yeah, I guess until then, we'll just have to catch you guys on the flippity, you know?
hey, yes sir. Y'all stay safe. If you're in DC and riding, don't do that. Be scum. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. Try to be back. Hopefully we can go next Thursday. I don't know what my schedule is going to be up until then, but yeah. From now, hey,
All right.
it's on.
We'll
Just
see you
keep
guys
on.
next week, guys.
Yeah, hell yeah. Peace out.